Tonight for dinner, we are making a New England lamb bake. Okay, this is a pretty unique recipe. It's very similar to an Americanized version of shepherd's pie to a degree, but we're changing it up. We are gonna be using ground lamb. Now, I think traditionally a leg of lamb is used and cut into like 1-inch pieces, but this is the more, what do we call this? Less expensive route. We're gonna be cooking this over on the stovetop. The only thing that really happens over here is the cutting of potatoes. So I tried to find 3 potatoes that are roughly the same width around so that when we cut this into slices, they're all about the same size. But we're gonna be doing that now, just cutting them into slices, and then we'll head over to the stovetop. I was about to say that this would be easier with a mandolin slicer. And then I remembered that my mom told me she watched one of my videos the other day where I said that exact same thing. So she bought me a slicer and I don't know exactly where it is. Is this it? Oh man. So much easier. All right, now that that's done, my oven is preheating to 375 degrees. We're gonna head over there. I am changing a few things about this recipe. It typically calls for carrots to be put into it, and I'm gonna leave that out. And I actually was gonna add leeks in because that is part of the recipe. And this is what I got in my grocery order. That's green onions, so not leeks. And so we're gonna leave the leeks out, although green onion could actually be pretty good in this too. We'll probably add some to the top for color. Actually, how do you feel about me putting the whites of green onions into this casserole? Okay, so we're not adding leeks, but we are gonna add some of the whites of green onions. He gave me the go ahead. Also, if you're new here, I'm joking with him about being adventurous. We actually both are very adventurous eaters, but my husband does not like onions. And then a few recipes, I've actually been putting onions in them, but leaving them really big so that he could pick them out, and he's been eating them. So maybe things are changing. Okay, we need to add a little bit of oil to our pan and get that heat turned on so that we can add in the meat and start to brown it. Now, if you wanna make this and you're just not up for the idea of using lamb, or maybe it's not in your budget, or maybe it's not in your store, absolutely just use ground beef or ground turkey or ground chicken or something like that. While this is cooking, I'm gonna season with a little bit of salt, maybe just a ½ teaspoon. We're gonna season again, but I want that to be kind of cooking with the meat. All right, let's add in the onion, the green onion, the whites of it. Okay, the recipe needs about 1/8 cup of flour. So we're gonna add that in and let that cook in there for a minute. And because I'm making a half recipe, I'm not using the 2 pounds of beef that the full recipe would call for. I'm using that 1/8 cup. Now, if you were making the full recipe, you would wanna do a 1/4 cup of flour. And then to that, we're gonna add about 1.5 cups of chicken broth. We're using bone broth in this case. Okay, just let that kind of work together and it'll create its own sauce. Now, while it's doing that, I'm going to add in a few more spices that will also add to the potatoes. I'm gonna add a little bit of rosemary in here. It's maybe just over a ½ teaspoon. I'm also gonna add some thyme, again, just over a ½ teaspoon. I'm adding a little bit of pepper, just a touch. And then we'll add a little bit more salt to this, just because that bone broth is lighter on sodium. Now, traditionally, this would bake in the oven for an hour, then you would remove it, brush it with a little bit of butter, and then bake it again for another 30 minutes until that meat is tender. But because we're using a ground meat instead of that, the cubed lamb leg, it doesn't take that long at all. It's probably about 35 minutes or so in the oven, just making sure that those potatoes get nice and tender. So we're almost there. You can see that sauce has thickened up quite a bit, which is what we want. About another minute. Okay, we're transferring what we made to our casserole dish. I'm using a round one just because I feel like when putting the potatoes on the top here, it'll look nice and pretty. So I'm going with that. I also did spray it, by the way. I don't think I said that. Let's just smooth that out a bit. So now I'm just gonna take my potatoes and just start to go around creating this crust-like layer on the top. This is somewhat of a single layer here. I want to add salt. Potatoes without salt, just not good. So let's add some salt to these. We're going to be brushing the top with melted butter, but just to make sure everything's got really good flavor. And I'm going to add some thyme right here. Now let's start our next layer. And you know, now that I'm doing this, I feel like you're probably supposed to start from the outside and work your way in, but you know, it's okay. It's still gonna taste good. And I have a lot of potatoes left over, so my next task is to figure out what I can make. I mean, I could make scalloped potatoes, I guess, with all these potatoes that I've already cut. Let's add some more thyme. Okay, this is just about a tablespoon of melted butter. So we're just going to kind of lightly brush with this melted butter, and it's just gonna add such great flavor to this top that we're making here. Look how good that looks. All right, this is gonna go into the oven for about 30 to 35 minutes. I really don't think it needs to be covered, but I'm gonna watch it and just make sure that nothing looks overdone. And if it does, I'll throw a, I'll cover it for the last like 15 minutes or so. Let's try this. I may have added a hair too much salt, but other than that, the flavors are very good. This meat is very tender. We've had lamb before, but I think that with ground lamb, when you add everything in, it really just kind of tastes like beef. So if you really want to get that lamb flavor, I suggest getting a leg of lamb and then cutting up the meat, or buying it that way even. But the potatoes are seasoned really well. I like the little sauce that came along with it by adding that flour and the chicken broth. This is really good. Great flavors in this. I think that it would be delicious with leek. If we had had leek, I think that would be a great option. If you're curious about what I'm doing with the leftover potatoes, I'm making a potato crusted quiche, which I've actually made here on my channel before. So I'll have it linked here so you can see what we do. Actually, this is a pretty common recipe in our household. All right, friends, in this bowl, I have some cooked shredded chicken. We are making a chicken tamale casserole type of thing. It's really easy to put together. I have all of the ingredients. We're using another box of Jiffy mix, and you can add corn to yours too. I'm not gonna be doing that, but let's just walk through this recipe. So this is 2 large shredded chicken breasts, and I'm gonna mix in this red enchilada sauce with the chicken. And I'm gonna go ahead and use the whole can because we like a lot of it. Okay, let's just mix this together. Now you can do yours in a 9x13 if you want. I'm gonna be baking mine in an 8-inch dish. Totally up to you how you wanna do it. Actually, yeah, we're gonna make it an 8-inch dish. Okay, so that's all you have to do with the chicken. Let's set that aside. See that egg trying to get away? Okay guys, my oven is also preheating right now to 400 degrees. Let's take our corn muffin mix, our Jiffy mix, and I'm gonna add the whole box here into my mixing bowl. Now, like I said, you can add a can of corn to this, but I'm skipping that. We don't love corn mixed into things, so I might serve it on the side actually, but we just don't love it mixed in. So it's a preference thing. Add in your 2 eggs. Oven's ready. We're gonna add in 1/2 cup of milk. Okay, this is a cheddar cheese. We're gonna add about 1 cup to the mixture here, but we want to reserve some too. So I'm setting it to the side. We are gonna use more. Okay, now the recipe doesn't call for this, but I love the smokiness of paprika. So I am gonna add a little bit of that. Let's do about a half teaspoon or so. This might even be closer to a 1/4 teaspoon. And then I'm also gonna toss in a little bit of onion powder. Again, right around a half teaspoon works for this. We've got chili powder, and I'm gonna go with a full teaspoon for that. This one I might actually have to open. And we're gonna add ground cumin, about a half teaspoon. I love cumin. You guys have heard me say that many, many times. So now we can mix all of that together. I'm going to spray our pan. Like I said, I'm using an 8x8 dish. And the first thing we're gonna do is bake this cornbread mixture. So I'm gonna pour the whole thing here into the baking dish. The oven, like I said, it's preheated at 400. So we are gonna start by baking this for 20 minutes, then we'll pull this out and finish up the recipe. I actually decided to only leave this in for about 15 minutes just because it's gonna go back in, and I feel like that's a lot. You might even be able to go closer to 10, just depending on the size pan that you bake it in. We are gonna take the entire shredded chicken mixture, and it's gonna go all over the top here. So if you make yours in a 9x13, it's gonna be thinner than this one, the whole casserole. But I just decided I thought it would look really pretty with a nice big thick piece once it's cut. Also, if I were making a 9x13, I don't think 2 large pieces of chicken would be good enough. You would need more. If you're using a 9x13, you need like at least 3 cups of chicken. I would say like 4 large chicken breasts maybe. Last little bit here, top this with some cheese. Now obviously, you could make this recipe without putting any cheese. You don't have to put cheese in the cornmeal mix that you have at the bottom there. You don't have to put cheese on the top. This is just, you know, part of the recipe. So you guys know, I say this all the time, adjust recipes to what you love and what you need. Don't feel like it has to be exactly what we are making. Okay, so about a cup for the top. Remember, the overall amount is 2 cups of cheese. Okay, this is gonna go in for another 15, 20 minutes-ish, but I wanna be careful and watch the bottom of this and make sure that it doesn't burn. So I'll let you know what the final count was. I'm gonna set a timer for 15 and then we'll check it. So topping with just a little bit of parsley because it really does make it look so much prettier. If you are curious about these scissors, I have them linked in a community post on YouTube. I also have them linked on my Amazon store and my Like to Know It. If you don't follow me over on Like to Know It and Amazon, highly suggest you do because I do link products from time to time that we love. Look at that, nice layers. You've got that corn muffin mix on the bottom, the enchilada chicken, and the cheese. Now, it's hot, but we're gonna try this tamale casserole. I'm gonna get a bite with everything in it here. This is pretty good. I think the only change that I would make is if you're making an 8x8 dish, I would use half of the box of Jiffy Mix, not the whole box. It's completely fine. You have a nice thick layer of cornbread there at the bottom, or the tamale version. But the flavors are really good, and we love enchiladas, so we're a fan of these flavors that work together. That's the only adjustment that I would make that I can think of, but the flavors are good, and this took minutes to throw together. Friends, just in case you're curious, yes, you can bake this casserole with the chicken on the bottom. Lay your chicken into the dish, then top it with your cornbread mixture, that Jiffy Mix mixture, put a little bit of cheese on top, and you're probably gonna bake it for about 25 to 30 minutes, just making sure that cornbread mixture is nice and done. You have another option with the same ingredients. I'm pretty sure that I've actually made this recipe on my channel before, but I think it was on my previous channel before I started this one. So we're gonna make it because it is absolutely so delicious. It's so good, you guys. It's so good. A friend of mine actually shared this recipe with me probably 7 or 8 years ago, and the number of times that we have made it since that, it's astounding. Now, I am actually making this to take to church tonight, so I'm making a significantly larger portion than what we would normally make for our family of 4. So I'm gonna have the exact directions in the description box. Anytime you're looking for a recipe, go right below this video. You will see it says you'll see my description box. It says read more or see more. You can click on that and you're gonna find tons of information. Now, we are gonna add some honey to this bag. And like I said, I'm gonna add way more honey than you probably would. So I'm adding 15 tablespoons of honey. Normally you would add like 4 tablespoons. So just bear with me, okay? This is gonna take a bit. It's gonna obviously make a lot more sauce than what you would probably make, but we're hoping to get about 20, this is gonna take forever. You know what? It's gonna have to be a guesstimate. Actually, how many tablespoons are in this? 16. Wow. Look how convenient that is. So obviously this is a lot of honey and you probably would not use this much. We're hoping to get in between 20 and 25 servings. I've also made a red enchilada dinner that I'm taking, and I have a lot of that, like a lot. But I wanted that to be more traditional and this to be just like an extra little thing that you can choose if you want. All right, so I'm assuming that's pretty close to the whole bottle. That's gonna leave about a tablespoon after it drips back down. So I think that's good. Another thing that we want to add is lime juice. Now, obviously you can juice your own limes, and I have done that with this recipe, but not today because we need 12 tablespoons. Now, if you want to make this for 20 people, feel free to do this with me, or you can make this for 20 people and divide it amongst 5 different freezer containers. And then you can, okay, that's 4, hang on. You could divide it amongst 4 different containers and have it in your freezer, and then you have 4 different nights of food. Okay, lots of lime juice. We need chili powder, and we only need about 2.5 tablespoons of this. this is gonna take forever. I'm just gonna guesstimate on this one. We love chili powder, and this is one of those things where when you're making something like this, I almost feel like it's hard to add too much chili powder, but I mean, I'm sure you can add too much. We also need 1.5 teaspoons of garlic powder, which I feel like is a really small amount, so I like to add a little bit more than that. And then we like to add cumin. The recipe does not call for cumin, but I have added cumin since I started making this recipe because it's just, I don't know, there's something about that cumin flavor. It's so good with this. That is all of our ingredients that are gonna go right here. Now I'm gonna just try and mix this a bit. And then I've got some cooked chicken. Now I already cooked this. I did this off camera. I actually completely forgot to start my camera when I put all this in the crock pot. But basically I just put several chicken breasts in the crock pot with a little bit of, did I say crock pot? I put several chicken breasts in the crock pot with some bone broth or chicken stock and some spices, just a few spices. I think I did cumin, oregano, salt and pepper. And then I just let it cook, just completely cook up, and then I shredded it. Very, very simple. I didn't do anything crazy that, you know, anybody wouldn't be able to do. So I think I cooked it on high for like 4 hours or something. So we've got a lot of chicken breasts, and we want this chicken breast to marinate for about 30 minutes before we start assembling these. Now you can do this overnight, marinate it way ahead of time. It's so good that way. But it is currently 1:30 and I need to get this cooking because I need to have all this ready by 4:30 for the whole church. So we're just gonna put all of this in here. I really should have done this part last night. When I was shredding all the chicken last night, I should have just went ahead and made up the marinade, and then it could have just sat in the fridge all night long. Obviously you could just mix this in a bowl, but it's so easy to mix it in this bag. Okay, so I am thinking I'm gonna get 2 pans of these. I don't know for sure, just based on the amount of chicken. I think I'm gonna get 2 pans. So the first thing that we need to do while that's over there marinating, we're gonna open up one of these green enchilada sauce cans. Feel free to make your own. I actually made my own red enchilada sauce last night for the red enchiladas. It is amazing. It is so good. I mean, whew, I kind of wish I would have tried this one too, but I was like, when I'm cooking for this many people, let's just try one new recipe at a time. So we're going to take, oh, can you see that? We're gonna take about half this can and just pour it at the bottom of this pan. And then I'm gonna do the same thing over in this other pan. We want to, oh, I need to open another one. We wanna make sure we have some green enchilada sauce at the bottom of the pan. Okay, normally when I make this recipe, I end up using 2 cans or 1.5 even. Normally I would mix this in one of my clear bowls so you guys could see everything, but I don't know that it's all gonna fit. All of these cans are gonna get opened and they're gonna go into this mixing bowl. Let me just say, if you're having people over, this is a great recipe for that. So we've got all of our green enchilada sauce in there. Now, the recipe also doesn't call for this, but I normally will take a little bit more cumin and just sprinkle that in. And then I also like to take a little bit of onion powder, garlic powder, whatever spices, and just sprinkle that in too. It's just extra flavor, it's so good. Many times I have made this recipe without the next step. So if you want to cut down on the fat content, please feel free to do it. But if you want a bulkier, like more hearty meal, we're gonna add heavy cream. Now I am choosing to do that because, I mean, I'm serving this to a bunch of people at church, right? So I do want this to be a little more bulky. I think what happened is the first time that I went to go make this, I completely forgot the heavy cream. So I didn't add it. And we realized how good it was, how it didn't even really need it. But that the next time we made it and we added the heavy cream, you realize that it just kind of like adds that depth. So it's really up to you. Like what are you looking for? Are you trying to cut down on a certain amount of fat grams or whatever? Then I would probably leave the heavy cream out. Okay, so we're just gonna whisk this sauce together. So that's mixed. This is what it looks like. I mean, it's just like a white sauce. And this is the part where we start to assemble. So we have our flour tortillas. These are, I think, are a medium size. So lay them out. You're gonna put a little, oh, I gotta get the cheese out. What am I doing? So I'm making somewhat of an assembly line here, okay? So we're going to open up our bag. I might end up putting that in a bowl. We'll see how it goes. Start taking out the chicken and laying it in the tortilla. I'm using flour tortillas for this one. The ones I did last night, I did use the corn tortillas, but you feel free to use whatever you want. Add a little bit of cheese. We're gonna roll it up, lay it in the pan seam side down. I wonder which way I should go. I guess I'll go this way. Lay it in the pan seam side down and repeat over and over again. While I'm doing this, I want to mention that this is such a perfect meal to make ahead of time. I've done this many times where I will go ahead and assemble all of this the night before or that morning, and then all you have to do is pop this in the oven in the evening. So this is a great make ahead meal. All right, full disclosure, I kind of thought that the chicken was gonna make more. So I think I'm gonna have like way more sauce than I need, but we're just gonna take this sauce and pour all over the top. I definitely have way more than I need. Like, I probably could have made not half, but a little less. At this point, you can top with the shredded Mexican cheese that we have here, or you can do like I do, and you can find this cotija cheese. I think last time I said it wrong and somebody corrected me, which I'm not hating on that. Like, thank you, because I didn't know how to say it. I'm probably still saying it wrong, but we're going to crumble this on top because I do think it is so good with this cheese, and typically it will crumble really easily. Yeah, you just take it with your hands. Oh my gosh, it's so good. And you're just gonna crumble this all over the top. Oh my goodness, so delicious. So this is going to go in my 350-degree oven, and it is gonna bake for about 30 minutes. You don't have to cover this one. You can bake it uncovered. All right, and that is it. I mean, it's really easy to make. The payoff, it's so good. It's so good. All right, so since I have 2 of these, it might take a little longer, but about 30 minutes or so in a 350-degree preheated oven. All right, friends, right after I made these enchiladas, I had to get to church quickly so that we could eat dinner. I already know they're delicious, okay? I'm trying them for you on camera, but I just already know how good they are. This is the little bit of leftovers that we had. The flavor combination might sound odd, but y'all, they're so good. Let me tell you what happened at church, okay? We had regular red enchiladas, beef and chicken, and then we had these, and you could come through the line and choose whatever you wanted. Several people were passing up the honey lime chicken enchiladas. And so I said to one guy, I was like, come on, you gotta try these. I promise you, you're gonna like them. He was like, it sounds weird, but I'm gonna try it. 10 minutes later, he comes over, fist bumps me and said, that is one of the best recipes that I've tried. He was like, it was actually way better than the red enchiladas. I think people were just scared because you think honey and lime, like that's kind of an odd combo. You have to try them. I'm telling you, every single person that tried them said these are so good and you're missing out if you don't eat them. They are very, very good, hearty, delicious. Just make them. Our verse today comes from Ephesians 4:31. Get rid of all anger, bitterness, rage and anger, brawling and slander, along with every form of malice. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you want to see more casseroles, I have plenty more of these videos here on my channel. I also highly suggest checking out last week's video where I made several different things, a full week's worth of meals, and it was so good. You guys are going to love all the recipes in that video.